I have a recovering lawyer like myself, but an extraordinary entrepreneur, Bryan Leach, founder and CEO of Ibotta, an incredible app that's just killing it. Bryan, welcome to the Playbook.
Thanks for having me.
Well, I'm looking at your background and I'm thinking to myself, these are a tale of two worlds, which I myself have experienced. I'm just taking a guess that your parents put a little bit of pressure or at least some influence on academics in your life. Is that true?
It's true. It's true. My father and mother both valued education. And I think I watched A Few Good Men when I was a kid and decided to be a lawyer so I could be like Tom Cruise in that movie.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Jerry Maguire and hit me where, I grew up. So interesting, though, because you are educated at the highest level. I think I was counting more Ivy League schools that you went to through your master's in law degree and undergrad. And it seemed like you took a major shift from being a top lawyer. I mean, you clerked for a Supreme Court justice. You had worked for one of the most notable law firms in the country. You were absolutely in the social science arena, which I really thought was interesting. So you must have studied a lot of history and a lot of politics. But this paradigm shift, I went through it myself, but what was it that, motivated you, inspired you to let people laugh at you, scoff at you, make fun of you, that you're going to leave probably one of the most stable positions in the country in order to chase your dream?
It starts rooted in my family story. When I was born in Nairobi, Kenya. My father was working at a car dealership in downtown Nairobi, and he had a dream of leaving behind that life and moving to the United States, going to business school and becoming an entrepreneur. And when he was about in his early 30s, he had two young kids and a mortgage. He quit his stable job and started at a storefront in Perimeter Mall in Atlanta, selling PCs and software at a time when the family needed him to be keeping his other job. So watching him struggle and scrap and grow that business from 5 employees to over 1,000 and having a front row seat to kind of the American dream, I think I had that in the back of my mind. And then I had a supportive wife who said, if you were going to be happy this way and you don't want to stay being a partner at a law firm, I'd rather you be happy and take a 5-fold pay cut and we'll figure it out. And so we muddled through, and I don't know what she privately thought the chances of success were, but God bless her because we gave it a shot.
And, coming from your background and experience in relationship capital, you probably had a lot of different shots, meaning a lot of different opportunities to look at. One of the other challenges that face entrepreneurs that have that desire that they must be what they can be, that have the desire, a masochistic desire, by the way, to grow their own business. How did you choose Ibotta?
Yeah, so it's an interesting, you're absolutely right. First of all, I had many opportunities and privileges because of my educational network and background. The fact that my father was an entrepreneur and was an inspiration to me. The fact that I had people who believed in me, who really had no good reason to believe in me based on my track record of achievement as an entrepreneur. So that gave me some courage to try it. But honestly, I think I just was so aware that I was never going to be any younger than I am today. And if I say I have these dreams and I have these theories about myself as a leader and a person who can build something and create something that's ever been created, how am I going to look myself in the mirror when I'm 50 years old, not having given it a shot? Sure, I made a bunch of money as a partner at a law firm, but I really felt the regret of that emotion when I was 50, and the crisis that I would have that I didn't bet on myself was more powerful than the fear of failing, which was the likelihood of failing at the time. In terms of why Ibotta, I was actually an international arbitration lawyer. So I was trying cases all over the world. I was coming back from a conference in Rio on international arbitration, and I just wasn't feeling it professionally. I didn't feel like I wanted to go write another 200-page brief. And I was on the flight and I saw this woman taking a picture of her receipt for expense reimbursement purposes. And I thought, yeah, it's interesting, giving consumers control over their own purchase information and a level of kind of autonomy that has never existed in a very granular way. You can look at what you bought, hence Ibotta. It's just a sort of bad pun. But basically that turned into the kernel of an idea around which we could build performance marketing and rewards networks. And it didn't happen overnight. There was a lot of fumbling around in the dark, seeing a little bit more with the flashlight, a little bit at a time. But that was really the aha moment. And from then it was living a double life, skulking around fundraising on the side when I was supposed to be representing clients, finding angel investors and being told no over 100 times. Not a single Sand Hill Road, Silicon Valley venture fund wanted to put $1 into my venture. So it was, while I had a lot of privileges, I also had a lot of discouragement as well I had to work through.
You know, what's so interesting is I look at, so many entrepreneurs today, try to give them my playbook to success, my dummy tax of how I got here, which is, definitely not some straight path from technology to sports agentry to marketing and media. But through that process, I look at your capabilities, as a venture capitalist myself or an angel investor. And I say, if you're coming in front of me to pitch, number one, you have all the credibility in the world. You have extraordinary skills. Your knowledge of not only what is extraordinary and also who, because of all the Ivy League schools and positions that you've held. And you seem to have, a great desire that you must be what you can be. But yet I know people like you that, get the A+ in all my categories, that you wish somebody would have told you something or a few things before you went down the path of entrepreneurship. Can you share with us, some of the things you wish, even though you appear to be pretty high up on the list of capabilities of being an entrepreneur? What were some of the things that you had no idea about?
Oh man, we need about 5 podcasts for that.
I'll have to have you back then because I want to know.
The most humbling thing you can ever do is start a company, because it's perfect until you start. It's perfect in your mind's eye. And then day 2, it's all gone, sideways. Whether it is you didn't realize that the job entailed a certain skill set, like for instance, managing people is very different than being an inspirational leader, having a vision, creating a product roadmap, figuring out how to get the most out of people, or coaching people who maybe don't have the skills that you have or different skills, helping them figure out their career path or helping them learn how to manage is a completely different thing than just being a visionary. And so as a trial lawyer, you really tell stories for a living. You tell stories about things that happened in the past. As an entrepreneur, a founder, early days especially, you tell stories. You just tell stories about the future, what's coming next and what you're building and why it's exciting and why you should get on board and why you should invest. So I'm great at storytelling, but there's a whole bunch of other things that, when you're trained as a lawyer, you absolutely no idea how to do. For instance, creating effective aligned incentives in organizations, cascading a mission down through the organization, understanding the importance of that upfront work and defining what your brand is. And then there's also the emotional side, Dave, which is so important because no one likes to talk about it, but I really want to demystify it. It is not okay for entrepreneurs to do what Justice Souter used to describe as paint the bullseye, where you fire the arrow wildly into the night and then you see where it landed. And the next morning you go before it gets light out and you draw the bullseye around where the arrow landed. And then, ta-da, you show up as a fully finished product on somebody's podcast and people get all intimidated and think, oh, I aim with such precision from so far away. That's not how it is. It's just a series of wild arrows in the night. And then you kind of make the best you can out of it. And emotionally, if you're from a professional services background, you're used to these predictable pathways with a sense of psychological reinforcement and security. So if you're a partner, if you're a tenured professor, it's very hard to get fired. So part of the reason why people go become partners at law firms is because they have that sense of job security and predictability. And when you're an entrepreneur, it's like a upward trending sine curve. It's constantly 10 great things that happen and 10 terrifying things that happen, and sometimes even within a single day or even half a day. So the emotional vicissitudes and journey of that just requires a level of calm and equanimity that you never have to practice until you do anything other than found a company. And it's really, really hard and takes a lot of practice and therapy, basically.
Well, one of the other things I see that you and I share is I have a saying, work smart, work hard, but work long. And I don't think a lot of people understand when I say, work long about segmentation, exponential growth, compound interest, and what long actually means. What does long mean to you when I say work smart, hard, and long?
I mean, to me, it means take the long view on what you're trying to achieve, right? If you pan out, things are going great. If you say I would have been here 3 years ago, wow, that's pretty cool. If you pan in and look on short intervals of what your day is, how it's going. It's this reversal of fortune or that. I often like to say, remind myself, don't jump off any bridges. I mean, if the number of times I've wanted to give up or conclude that we're
Bryan, I got to stop you for a sec because that just reminded me. You'll appreciate this. My first year in law school, criminal law, you used to have to stand up to recite cases. I don't know if they had to do that at Yale or wherever, but it was terrifying. My professor said to me, Mr. Meltzer, don't jump off the cliff. I'll push you. That's the way I feel as an entrepreneur. I hate to drop your train of thought, but that as an entrepreneur, don't jump off the cliff. There's plenty of people that will push you.
Yeah. And also just wake up, show up the next day and keep fighting. And there are these moments of incredible grace and being rescued, these what one of my favorite authors used to call the eucatastrophe, which is the euphoria of narrowly avoiding catastrophe. If you like that feeling, you will love being an entrepreneur because, 1 minute you're up and the next minute you're down and then you're back up and back down. And you just have to have a sense of, okay, over the long run, do I inherently love what I do? Am I learning about myself? Am I growing? Am I adding something to the world? I mean, whatever happens to Ibotta this year, we will have given Americans since the beginning, over $1 billion in cash back for using a free app. And they've used that for bread, milk, eggs, cheese, diapers, beer. That's really valuable. And so, last year we gave 1% of Americans a free Thanksgiving dinner. That's really valuable. So if you can kind of say, look, I crossed to safety with that. No one can take that away from me. No matter what happens next, you can stay sane in this business.
In the app business, it's so interesting because I think what's really made you successful is not only do you have a very clear quantifiable value, come to our app, use it for free and get money for buying things that you already buy. It's a very simple, and I look for that. And you yet went on a roadshow through the Silicon Valley. You heard as many no's as everybody else hears, yet you're an extremely intelligent person and articulate that can tell a story. And yet the VCs didn't believe one thing. And that was that you could build an audience, a community. Because looking at a business model, and I wish more venture capitalists would challenge people so they could get more deals done and have them explain, hey, this is a great idea. Millions of great ideas out there. Quantitative value, check. I get why this would work, but how are you going to get the people there to make this happen? Yet you've given over or will be over $1 billion. You've helped so many different charitable aspects throughout the process. But most importantly, you build a huge community. I mean, 23 million or more American consumers that purchase products through your app. I think that's the critical superpower of your business, is that you have a very strong, easy, simple business model. But more importantly, you were capable of attracting that community. How did you build such a big community in fairly short time?
I think it's just a combination of trial and error with a product that would really fit what people don't have. I mean, I think what we figured out was people want a single place to go for all their savings. They don't want one place to go when they shop online and one place to go when they shop in store. They don't want to have a separate app for every retailer that they go to, the Target app and the Walmart app and the Kroger app and the GameStop app. And, they want one ring to rule them all. So once we figured that out and could position it the right way, cash back for using a free app, it's real cash, it's not points. One of the biggest problems we had was just, it seems too good to be true. People say, wait a minute, that sounds scammy. You're going to sell my data. Nope, we don't do that. Well, what information do you need? Do you need my social security number? Do you need my address? Do you need my credit card number? Don't need any of that. Oh, okay. So that sounds like pretty good. So I think it's just, and then it's word of mouth. And then I think it's also just listening to what both sides of the market want, because you have to get paid. You can create a flashlight app and have 50 million people, but you have to also have a business model. So the hard part is balancing the needs of the different stakeholders, the people who pay you and the people who use your product. And the beauty of Ibotta is that we get paid by our advertisers to give money to our consumers. Unlike an app where we have a utility like email or social media, and then we flood that utility with ads, which really don't help the consumer. Our entire app is about cutting consumers in on the deal. We're in the giving away money business. So we get to basically make a rewards proposition where it's helpful to the brand and helpful to the consumer at the same time. And I think that alignment has helped us grow the business.
And one of the things that you do really well on the marketing side, including being on this podcast, is what I call the stage theory. Coming from a more traditional business and profession, we've witnessed on the traditional side how marketing in media works. One of the most interesting marketing plays that you had is, buying the patch rights on the Pelicans jersey. And a lot of people, were asking me, why would, Bryan do that? And I said, stage theory. It's one thing, even during a pandemic where no one's in the arena to see that patch, but it's what you can do with the capture, the modification of the content that you've captured, the amplification of that, obviously the lead in with Zion and the Pelicans and all the other great things that are going to get alternative and exponential distribution on it. But it's also the perpetual content that people don't realize you get when you're with a major sports team, because the historical content is utilized in so many different aspects. For you, that was a very risky, I think, proposition because it's expensive. Have you seen the ROI, and do you see the long game in the marketing side as well?
Yeah, look, I mean, we believe that it's important to have a combination of direct response, analytical, channel-based, payback period-oriented, measured marketing channels. But you also have to create brand awareness and brand trust. And when you do that well and effectively with the right surrounding media, you actually make all those direct channels more efficient. I think the Pelicans were really exciting to us because they have a 3-state audience in the Southeast, which is an area where a lot of people use our product. But more importantly, they're the second most nationally televised team in the entire NBA after the Lakers, because they have this core of young talent, Zion Williamson, Brandon Ingram, Steven Adams, and Lonzo Ball. And so the opportunity to be on TNT, ESPN, et cetera, over 30 times, 35 times in a single season, it just saturates younger audiences who are in the core of the NBA. I would also just add, though, that from a values standpoint, we really admire the NBA. We feel like the NBA led last year on really important social justice topics that matter to our employees and a lot of our users. We feel like that organization run by David Griffin is just a high character organization. And so it's a joy to collaborate with them on things like the Thanksgiving program. They're happy because our brand actually gives cash back to their audience and their fans, not knocking the hot sauce brand that was there before, but it's just a bit of a more universal brand proposition for them to be feeling like is really interesting and fits with their marketing objectives. So we're really collaborating as two marketing teams, not only on what to do, but also how to measure it. One of the challenges is that sports partnerships are difficult to measure, but when you have an app and you have a free browser extension in Google Chrome, you can look at lift during the games, during the press conferences, in those geographic areas over time. And that's really something that we've created alignment around measuring success, I think, in a pretty novel way that other companies didn't say, hey, we have a plan to measure this, and we want to look out over the horizon together and sort of see the same thing in a year. And I think that's something that's pretty cool about the Pelicans and Saints organization, that they're part of a similar marketing organization. And it's been a great success for us on the heels of our Thanksgiving program.
Yeah, I went to Tulane Law School. My daughter went to Tulane.
Nice.
I worked with the Saints and the Pelicans. And I gave Tillman Fertitta wrote the foreword to my last book. And we were talking about advice about sending every 5-year-old a jersey would be the best use of marketing dollars. So I'm going to go back, suggest that to the Pelicans. Now they'll get double bang because my friend Bryan's company will be distributed as well to every 5-year-old. I still think it's the best thing you can do marketing. It has so many great things. There you go. That's awesome.
Zion there for you. So, to your point, right? That's a priceless image.
Yeah.
We're fired up about the partnership. There's no doubt about it. So
thanks for proving the stage theory. Last question real quick. You've won a tremendous amount of awards. Some are very notable, like the best or top CEO, best workplace in America, things that, the idea of it means a lot, but you and I both don't dwell on awards. But what I dwell on is, if I was going to give the award when I receive one, what would I judge? What would the criteria be? So as a last question, I'd love to know what your criteria is to be the top CEO and the best place to work.
I'd like to have the greatest possible impact through our mission. Our mission is 4 words: make every purchase rewarding. So if we can measure the way that we've influenced people's purchases, what they buy, where they shop, how they pay, and we can touch almost every transaction and then make that go to work for the consumer instead of siphoning off their data and monetizing them. And I like the idea that our measured impact is through, if it's $1 billion, if it's $10 billion, how much money have we given people that they've used to pay off their student debt, make ends meet with their medical bills, put food on the table for their family? That ultimately is the byproduct of a successful business plan and team and work culture. So that's how we're going to measure our success.
Well, I'm counting on it. My mission is to empower over 1 billion people to be happy by finding 1,000 people like you, Bryan, to empower 1,000 to be happy. And I'll do a little green screen help there. It says money doesn't buy happiness, but I'll tell you this, aligned with Ibotta, money doesn't buy happiness, but it allows you to shop. And if you shop for the right things, you'll be happy. And shopping on Ibotta, you can find the right things, as well as I do some shopping there in Kenya as well, in the Bugani, chairman of the Unstoppable Foundation, just to make a quick plug, building villages there in the Bugani and the Maasai. So familiar to your birth right and place. Thank you so much for the great lessons and the great playbook. I know we'll see continued success from Ibotta and Bryan Leach.